Friedensfabrik Wanfried, and there I work Lieferkettengesetz, supply chain, law of supply chain, and looking for input for webinars.
Very good. Mr. Joseph.
Yeah, good evening, everyone. My name is Joseph Kapena.
Can you hear me?
I am a professional teacher. I teach at a high school. I teach French in Ghana. And I work for Initiative Black and White too in Ghana. And I love to discuss and push things on human rights in general and then equality. And this topic is very, very dear to my heart because it affects us here in Ghana, and we would like to collaborate so that we can push this agenda very far. Thank you.
Very good. Mr. Joseph, Yusuf.
Do you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. I am Yusuf Thoma. I'm very glad to be with you this evening. I studied in Germany mechanical engineering and development economics, and worked all my professional life in the international cooperation and in many countries in Africa, especially. So, and since 2015, I am, of course, now retired. I retired much earlier, however. I started in 2015 to work voluntarily in the field of promoting integration of the new citizens of Germany, those people who came 2015 and later. And I am very much engaged in that business. And at the same time, of course, due to my professional background, I am very much interested in the relationships between Europe and also US and so on, and with the developing countries, because I think that our policies are one of the major reasons for the whole turbulence in the world. And if we think about land grabbing, the international trade relations and so on, we know that our welfare is based on the poverty in many countries. So I hope we can come to talk about this later. Thank you.
By origin, you are from Iraq, no?
I am originally from Iraq, yes. Thank you for
reminding
me.
Nice to see you.
Okay.
Nice to see you, Wolfgang.
You are welcome, Sir Joseph.
Thank you.
Dominic. Joshua. Okay, Dominic.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, yes, Joshua. Okay, go on, please.
So I wish just present myself.
Yes.
Okay, yeah.
Okay, so I'm Joscha, Lieberknecht as well. So I'm the son of Wolfgang. Not yet a member of Black and White, but I would say an attendee. So the next year is my turn to fill out the membership for Black and White. I'm very interested in the topic. I used to live 3 months in Cameroon last year, from July to October. There I worked in a project for microfinance. And yeah, I think I got a lot of insights in more everyday. It's not really the global perspective which I gained, but more the individual perspective on agriculture. And I think for those reasons, I'm somehow interested in hearing about the findings of Alice today. Yeah, so I have some things to do, but I really tried to follow the whole thing and to be really in the discussion. So during the presentation, I will mostly be muted and maybe also blind, let's say.
Right. Thank you.
Yep.
So, Dominic, are you there? If not, we move on to Knut Schneider. Are you there?
Hello.
Okay. Hello,
Okay, hold on.
Knut, you are welcome. You are muted. Your microphone.
I'm coming. Please give me some few minutes. Dominic,
Muted.
Please wait.
Knut, you are muted. Du hast dein Mikrofon aus. Unten links. Unten links aufs Mikrofon. Unten links am Bildschirm, das Mikrofon.
Unten links.
Yeah,
Okay.
Yes, good.
Jetzt funktioniert. Okay, thank you for your technical help. We are family Schneider. We are agronom, agriculture engineers for tropical and subtropical agriculture. And well, we were nearly our entire professional life in Francophone Africa for international cooperation, but also for consulting for private enterprises. So we are very curious and we are looking forward for this meeting. Thank you.
Very good. You're welcome.
Thank you.
So, Dominic. Lambert.
Yes. Hello, Emmanuel.
Yeah.
Hello, Lambert.
Yes. Good evening, everyone.
Good evening. Just short.
Yeah.
You are welcome.
Yeah. Thank you very much. I'm also Lambert. Let me say, I've also been following Initiative Black and White Africa in Ghana here for quite some time. I work as a health and safety officer for construction companies here in Ghana. So I've been working quite with some European construction companies. So I would say that the topic is of interest to me. So I'm looking forward to learn something positive from this webinar. Thank you.
Okay. Very good. You're welcome.
Yeah, thank you.
Robert.
Saki is da maybe, huh?
Okay. So, yeah, Saki Kwajo, is that Akomia?
No.
What we would do is, I think because of the time,
Okay.
in sake of time, we have to move on. At the later part of the discussion, we can still bring those who couldn't introduce themselves to be better. So, Alice Schmidt writes, and I cite her writing. She said, European Union agricultural subsidies are not just expensive and distort the internal market. They also have far-reaching effects on developing countries. How do African farmers feel about the fact that the EU subsidizes its farmers and exports their product to Africa? She asked. Alisa, you are welcome today. And then we want you to give some of the answers to this particular input that you gave in your papers. The floor is yours.
Sorry, now I put it on. So I will now share my screen.
Yeah, okay.
And I will start my presentation. So yeah, as I said, I'm working since many years on that topic. And I will first start with a short introduction about international trade in general, because this is important to understand Africa's role during the last 100 years, because then you will see that Africa always had a very minor role. They always were ignored during many years. They had to do what others expected them to do. So you will see that they are somehow excluded, and when they are included, they are treated unfair. So that is why I start with an overview about the international trade. Okay, so but at first maybe it's interesting to see how much did the OECD countries pay in 2018 for their agricultural support. And it's in total 240 billion euro, and for development aid they paid 153 euro. And this has a huge impact, and there are scientists who are saying that the impact of the total agricultural support is much more higher, the negative impact, than the impact the positive impact of the development aid. So in the end, the OECD countries take something out of Africa and not something in Africa, because due to their policies in their country, they are distorting, and they are also harming Africa. And this is here is a citation from the female president Ellen Sirleaf from Liberia, and she said, "No subsidies for poor countries," the bank says. "Subsidies are bad for open markets." But that tenet does not seem to apply at home in the United States and Europe, where agriculture is still heavily subsidized. So the, shall we say, unfairness is there, no doubt. So if we look at the international trade, we start with a lot of protectionism. It was very common until 1850 to have a very protectionist trade policies. And then we had the first period of free trade together with Adam Smith and with other philosophers who started to think about the positive impact of a free market. And then what happened was very fast industrialization. And then all the farmers in Germany and also in European countries became problems, or they got problems because due to the fact that the industry got more and more efficient, their production of farming became less important. So the farming was not anymore the most important thing in trade. And that is why we had an economic crisis, and that is why most countries reintroduced, after that first period of free trade, again agricultural protectionism in all European countries. And this was also a reason why the first trial of a new free trade organization, the so-called International Trade Organization, the ITO, failed, because most countries said, okay, we still need to have a protectionist agricultural policies, and so we are not interested to have such an organization. And that is why we didn't have any formal trade organization in the world. We just had an agreement that was very slack, the so-called GATT agreement. And this was installed for many, many years. So we didn't have really a multilateral organization that was trying to have a fair international trade. We just had this slack trade agreement that was called GATT. And then in 1957, all the countries in the European Union said, okay, all of us have their own protectionist politics, so let's put it together into our so-called common agricultural policy. And that is what we are still having today, and one of the most important agricultural markets in the world. And until that time, Africa didn't play any role. So no one had a look on Africa, and Africa was ignored. So until 1986, we had still the GATT, and the result was, because there was no strong free trade organization, that the European Union and the United States started to increase their agricultural subsidies in the world. And that produced a very high overproduction, not just in the European Union, but also in the US. And then we had the problem what to do with the overproduction. And so they introduced export subsidies. So they subsidized the exports of products. They paid additional amount to the trade companies for their export so that they have still earnings from that. And then in the end, of course, because they had the subsidies and they saw that they can make money with that because the state is supporting also the export, they kept on doing more and more. And that is why the world market became very distorted, and we had something like a trade war. And so the world saw, okay, we cannot keep on like that. Because if we keep on like that, we will have to pay still, or it will increase the amount what we have to invest to keep that war. And it will take us a lot of money and a lot of overproduction. And until that time, so until 1986, Africa doesn't still play any role. And then we had the big fight in the international trade, because the United States said, okay, currently our subsidies are distorting. So let's change our subsidies to a new way of subsidies. And this new way of subsidies was that they didn't pay their farmers anymore something additional per product, but they paid something per hectare. So that is why we call it decoupled subsidies, because it's decoupled from the product. It's just connected to the hectare. If you have more hectare, you will get more money. And the United States proposed that on the international level, we should install this system, that also the European Union should change the way how they subsidize their farmers. But the European Union was totally against that and blocked all the negotiations. And just after a very hard fight and a lot of pressure on the United States, they finally said, okay, if like all the world want us to do this, we will finally do this. But they really didn't want it to do. So that is the reason why in the end we had the introduction of decoupled direct payments per hectare in all over the world, in industrialized countries. And that is also the moment when we had the possibility to found the WTO, the World Trade Organization. So as I said, before 1986, there was no formal trade organization. This was the first time when we could have that, because we had this agricultural negotiation, and finally the European Union stopped to block it, and then it was possible to found it. And then it is also easier, of course, to have negotiations, because before we just had the agreement, the so-called GATT. So just to have that so that you understand it, because this is very important. Before the WTO, before the foundation of this organization, we had the coupled payments per product. That means if you produce 1 kilo of butter, you will get maybe additional 50 cents. And if you produce 10 kilo of butter, you will get €1. So the more you produce, the more you get. And that changed with the WTO worldwide. Now, if you have 1 hectare, you will maybe get €200. And if you have 10 hectare, you will get 10 times €200. So the more hectare you have, the more money you will get. And this is how the European Union is currently subsidizing, and also in the whole world. And the thing is that there is a big debate whether those new subsidies are still distorting, because the European Union and the United States and also the WTO, they say, no, it's not distorting. But in science, there is no evidence that it is not distorting, because, I mean, African farmers don't have those hectare subsidies. It's just the European and the Americans, and also the Chinese one, and also the Brazilian one, who have those subsidies. And the WTO installed something like a subsidy box system. And there you can see which subsidies are allowed, because not all subsidies are allowed. So, for example, the amber box, this means that it is forbidden to have those subsidies. It is, for example, the export subsidies, so the European Union had to abolish them. The blue box means that it is partially allowed. It is still possible to pay coupled subsidies, but with a quantity restriction. And we have the green box, where you can pay as much subsidies as you want in your country. And this means the decoupled subsidies, like the sustainability subsidies, but also, as I said, the hectare subsidies. So finally, in the international trade, the countries saw, okay, there is another big continent we never talked about, and this is Africa. So we had finally in 2000 the so-called Doha Development Round, because the WTO saw that they never did anything for Africa. So that is why all countries came together and thought, okay, let's have something new, because now we are starting a new century. So let's focus on Africa and let's give them a perspective. But this all, unfortunately, didn't work, because the European Union and the United States said that they want to keep the system that I just showed you. They want to keep those subsidies. They are not open to change that system. And the African countries said, that is the system that is harming us. You have to change that system if you want to have a new perspective for us. And due to the reason that the United States and the European Union said, no, we want to keep that, there was no agreement. And the whole process of the Doha Development Round failed, unfortunately. And so officially, we still have a Doha Development Round, but it is not really anymore ongoing. It doesn't have any perspective. So as we see, when there was one time the wish to include Africa, in the end, all the countries decided against it, and there was no willingness to involve Africa in a way that was fair. And additionally, in 2005, we had the big problem that the European Union thought, okay, if the WTO doesn't work anymore and we want to trade with Africa, we will do our own free trade agreements with Africa. And that is why they introduced a plan to have European partnership agreements with all African countries. And the thing is that they didn't do it with the WTO, but they did it by themselves. And you always have to understand, there is the biggest market in the world, the European Union, that is doing negotiations with the poorest countries in the world. So of course, all the conditions the European Union is proposing, the African countries have to accept in the end, because otherwise they are not sure to have access to the biggest market in the world. So it is very easy for the European Union to have conditions that are very good for the European Union and very bad for Africa, because they are the ones who put the conditions there. And because we don't have a WTO that is looking whether, or that is having a look on fairness. So that is a very big problem. So if we look at the how Africa was before on the formal trade, we had the Lomé agreements. That means that the European Union had an agreement that they put, and they had with all poor countries. And the European Union wants to replace those agreements with the, as I said, European partnership agreements. And the critique is, as I told you, that you always have the biggest market in the world that is negotiating with very small and very poor countries. So just some small short words about the agricultural policies of the European Union. So as I said, we started in 1957 with a common agricultural policy, and we didn't have any restrictions. So we had a lot of overproduction. We had then the European Union installed customs so that no one could enter the market. We had export subsidies, but it didn't help. We had still overproduction. So we had lower guaranteed prices. to have less expenses, but that didn't help, because then the farmers said, okay, if they pay us less per product, we will have to produce more products to get the same income. So in the end, we had a big problem that was getting bigger and bigger. And as I told you before, the international trade in the end put the pressure on the European Union. And that was the reason why they changed that whole process a little bit to the decoupled subsidies. But they wouldn't do so if there wouldn't be any pressure. So the European Union would keep on doing this stupid thing if we didn't have the pressure before. So as I said, today we have like two big budgets. We have on the one side the decoupled payments. As I said, the more hectare you have, the more you will get. And on the second side, we have the so-called sustainability payments. That means if you have, for example, a house for your cows, and this is a very sustainable house because it is very energy efficient, then you can get some money to build that house. So these are, for example, sustainability payments, or for example, if you have more efficiency in your how you are doing your farming. So there are different possibilities how you can subsidize what you are doing as a farmer. So we now come to Ghana. I mean, the things I put together, maybe of course most of you know them. It's a lower middle income country. That is very important, because as a low income country, you have free access to the European market. But due to the fact that Ghana is a lower middle income country, they don't have free access. They have to negotiate with the European Union how to get free access to the biggest market in the world. The economic growth of Ghana is relatively good during the last year. It's one of the best in Africa. It has a relatively good doing business index. That means that they have good conditions for people who want to do entrepreneurship. Well, it's not the best, but it's still good if we compare in the whole continent in Africa. It's one of the best places. And we have a population of 27 million people. And if you want to compare the situation from Ghana, you can compare it with Kenya or with Nigeria and also with Namibia. And I will come now to like the thing that was for me the most important thing. It is the big topic of the poultry. And until the 90s, and the beginning of from the 90s, we had a huge production sector, a lot of small scale farmers who were doing, who had their own poultries. And it was very, I mean, they didn't need any help, because 95% they had self-sufficiency. And the big advantage about that was that this brought many jobs, because having poultry means a big system behind it. You have the butchers, you have the sellers who are selling the poultry on the markets, you have the farmers, you have the suppliers, also for your farming itself, you have the craftsmen. So there is a big system behind it that brings a lot of jobs, especially if you have a small scale production, what most farmers are doing in Ghana. And the second big advantage about having poultries is that you have you don't have just the meat, but you have also the eggs, you have the feeders, you have fertilizer, and you have meat. So you have a lot of possibilities how you can do something positive out of what you are doing. And that is also why before the 90s, many development corporations were focusing on poultry production in Ghana. But unfortunately, that didn't, the situation changed. And the reason is that in the 90s, the European Union started to export poultry to Ghana. So when we look at the first number, in 1996, we had 5,000 tons. That was still okay. But then, like 2 years later, we had 10,000 tons. And then in 2001, 35,000 tons. And then, surprisingly, 2004, 70,000 tons, and not anymore just from the European Union, but also from the United States. And what happened then is, of course, that the local farmers couldn't compete anymore with what was imported. So, of course, the population started to change how they bought their products because it was cheaper. So, of course, if they want to have meat every day and not just once a week, they start to buy the chicken from the imported ones and not from the local ones. So that was a big problem. And in 2009, we can say that the European Union was dominating the whole market. And this is the situation until today. If I ask the experts, what do you think, how high is the self-sufficiency in poultry in Ghana? They all said it is just about 5 to 15%. So it's nearly nothing, of course. And it's a very bad situation because the European Union and also the United States and also today Brazil, they are dominating the whole poultry market in Ghana. So to understand what happened in that time, because of course the local farmers, they realized that something is happening and that they are in danger. So that is why, and because Ghana has a very good democratic society and a lot of NGOs, so people saw that. And we see that in 1994, Ghana became WTO member, and that meant that that Ghana had to lower its duties. So that means if you want to export to Ghana poultry, before you had to pay 40% additional money to export it to Ghana, and Ghana had to lower it to 20%. And then the import flood started because then the duty was not high enough so that they could flood the whole market. And the Ghana National Poultry Farmers Association started big demonstrations against that because they saw that this is a great danger to us. And in 2003, the parliament said, okay, they are right, because this is killing our business. This is killing millions of jobs. So the parliament decided to increase the duty again to 40%. And the WTO was okay with that. But who was not okay with that was the European Union. So the European Union sent out representatives on international level, cooperate on international level congresses, and they always criticized Ghana officially on those moments and said, hey Ghana, you're having debt, you want us to help you, but you have those duty, and this is not nice. We don't like that. And because Ghana is always a country that is like reacting to the criticism of Western countries, they didn't apply the law, and the duty kept on a low level on 20%. But this was not fair because, of course, we had already that law, so they had to apply it. That is why we had a complaint in 2003 at the court, and the judge decided that the government is forced to apply the law. And when they were forced, they did an emergency act in the parliament, so that in the end, they didn't increase the duty to 40, but they are still on 20%. And in 2016, Ghana was one of the first West African countries that signed the European Partnership Agreement with the European Union. And in this agreement, now the duty is in a standstill clause on 20%. So that means that in the next years, Ghana is not able to increase that percentage, which is very bad for the local farmers. And it's not possible to change anything because this European Partnership Agreement forces Ghana to have this kind of policy. So the question is, of course, why does the European Union do that? Why is it so important for them to export poultry to Ghana? So there are several reasons behind that. For example, the Europeans prefer just the white meat. So we don't eat the head, we don't eat the leg, we just eat the We just eat the meat without the bones inside. So there are many leftovers, and it is not allowed to do flour out of these leftovers. Many years ago we did that, but due to BSE, which is a disease for cows, it is not possible anymore. So we have a lot of leftovers, and it is cheaper to export those leftovers than to exterminate them. And so that is the reason we do so. And then we have also the subsidies, we have the modulation, and we also have very cheap feed. So 50% of the production price of poultry is feed. And because feed is so cheap in the European Union, you can do a lot of very cheap poultry. And the funny thing is that, or the sad thing is that the farmers in Ghana today who are doing poultry, they import the feed from the European Union because it's so cheap that it doesn't make sense to produce the feed by themselves, but to get it from the European Union. And here we see a map from many West African countries, and you see that the export from poultry, and you see that it is not only the case with Ghana, it is with many countries. And then you will understand that it's a big problem that is counting for all African countries. You see in Cote d'Ivoire or in Senegal, they have a lower import of poultry. This is because they changed their duties in those times. But now they are again on the same level like Ghana has it now. So until now, unfortunately, they also don't have a successful market in that area. And maybe what you don't see here, what is also interesting, Nigeria denied to sign the European Partnership Agreement. And Nigeria also doesn't allow the import of poultry. But Nigeria is still suffering from the European Union's exports. And why are they suffering? Because the neighboring countries like Benin or like Niger, they are importing much more poultry than they are consuming. So through illegal import, all the poultry is getting into Nigeria. So even though they are doing a very sovereign politics and they are very powerful, they are not able to get the harm from the export out of their country. So here you have some of my sources. And just to give you a short introduction how I did my research, I was in 3 countries, in spring 2017 in Ghana, in autumn 2018 in Nigeria, and in spring 2019 in Liberia. And you also see how many interviews I did. So as you see, most of them were done in Nigeria, but also many in Ghana and also some in Liberia. And I wanted to give you also some voices from Nigerians. And I found those citations very interesting. I will read them out for you. What is partnership? Partnership is 2 or more people are winning on something. Now the agreement is that if you can bring your illegal to European Union to Ghana to sell, right? And Ghanaians can also send anything to European Union to sell. So for me, for example, what can I sell? What can I send to the European Union to sell? So he's saying, why are we opening our market? Because I cannot sell my poultry to the European Union. So what is my advantage to open the market? Or another one is saying, in the European Union, production is subsidized. And in Ghana here, it's not subsidized. So what they bring to us, we cannot compete. So he's describing his situation as someone who has to do everything by himself and doesn't get any governmental support, with a farmer in the European Union who is having a very who is always having an income due to the fact that there's a government that is helping him. And then we have another, but our problem has never been with export subsidies. Our problem has been with domestic support, but domestic support is where the Africans are suffering from. That is where the big players are not willing to show full commitment. So this expert is saying that the European Union and the United States are lying when they are saying that the decoupled subsidies are not affecting Africa. They are affecting Africa. And he's saying that they are even more affecting and harming Africa than the export subsidies. And he's also saying that argument has never been accepted by anybody. It has never been accepted. We come with numbers. The decoupling thing is never a solution that was happened because the effects are still there. So I will give you now some first results that came out of my research of those interviews. So for example, for Ghana, it came out that there was a great pressure to sign the European Partnership Agreement to avoid trade disruptions. So as I told you, Ghana doesn't have a free access because it's not a low-income country, so it has to negotiate an access to the European Union's market. And the European Union demanded a liberalization of 86% of the whole market. And otherwise, if they wouldn't do so, there wouldn't be a European Partnership Agreement and Ghana wouldn't have the access to the European market, which is very important, for example, if it comes to products like cocoa. So it wouldn't be possible that Ghana doesn't have an access to the market of the European Union. And we have that situation, for example, in Kenya, because they also had the negotiations about the European Partnership Agreement, and Kenya said, okay, we don't want to sign it because you want to have a duty for milk powder of 0%, and this harms our milk producers here, our local milk producers. And then the European Union put pressure on them and said, said that we will not leave anymore your pineapple, we will not leave anymore your flowers into our market, and they did that. And then many jobs were in danger, and that is why finally also Kenya, for example, signed that agreement. And then we have the findings on Ghana and Nigeria. That is that local chicken is still preferred by the local population. They love the taste more because it's fresh, because it's different from the one from the European Union. And there is a seasonal demand, especially so like Ghanaians don't buy anymore the chicken for the daily life and the local chicken, but they buy it for religious holidays, for example, for Christmas or something else. Then they are getting the local chicken. So the farmers are just able to sell their products like once or twice a year, and that it's not possible to live with in that way, to sell your products just once or twice a year. And then another finding was agricultural subsidies dissolve the advantages of location in Africa. Africa imports lots of industrial products, but there are rarely export opportunities for West African countries. So what Africa is exporting to, or what Ghana is exporting to the European Union is not comparable to what the European Union is exporting to Ghana, because they export industrialized products like electricity or cars, and they also export agricultural products. So what is the advantage for Ghana? What can they export? It's just cocoa or products that we cannot produce due to the climate in our region. But all the other things, it's not possible to have any advantage of that. And then another finding, the European chicken export did already destroy many production facilities for chicken. So there was a great infrastructure in Ghana. As I said, 95% was self-sufficient. So now it is all destroyed. Now you need to build up that again in many years. So even if you would like to have a market that is closed for imports, you have a problem that you don't have the infrastructure anymore because the European Union already destroyed it during the 90s. So, and another big thing is, as I told you, it is not only frozen chicken that is exported, but it is also the feed. So the 5 to 15% of poultry producers in Ghana, they are also depending on the feed from the European Union. And we also have a finding in Nigeria and in Ghana that there is a different emphasis in the development aid between the United States and the European Union, because the United States supports agricultural production in Ghana and Nigeria when it makes sense for the economic development of the country, while the European Union supports production of products which are not exported by the European Union itself and cannot be grown in the European Union. So what do I mean by that? Oh, I mean that the European Union wants to have the pineapple, they want to have the cocoa, they want to have mango, because we cannot do it by ourselves due to our climate. But this is the only thing the European Union is accepting. All the other things they are trying to get out of the market. And this is also, so in Ghana, if they are doing development aid, they try to focus on projects that are doing mangoes, that are doing cashews, that are doing cocoa. So all the things that we cannot produce, but we are not supporting poultry anymore a lot. And then as a last point, we have, as I said, the big problem with the Doha development round, because we have an international unfair trade, I would say, because we don't have a strong WTO, and the European Union and the US want to keep the system as it is. No one of them wants to destroy the system of decoupled subsidies, even though it is distorting, and there is no scientific evidence that it's not distorting, but they still keep on saying that. And also about Nigeria and Ghana, there is the thing that the more we are destroying the infrastructure and the production in Ghana from poultry, but also for tomatoes and many other products, the more people lose their perspective in the country. And of course, they are going to the European Union to get a perspective. And it's sometimes so sad, because we have a farmer, or I just saw a documentary about farmers in tomato who had to give up in Ghana due to the exports from the European Union of tomato paste, and now they are in Italy and doing and work on fields from tomatoes from Italian farmers. So they cannot be with their family, and they cannot be in their home country, but they have to be in Italy to get there the money and send it to their family, and they cannot do it anymore in their own country. So that is really sad. So this is me, and this was in Ghana, a really nice farmer. Yeah, and this was my presentation. I hope you liked it, you got some insights, and I'm very interested to listen to your opinions and about your views on that topic, whether you also have experiences in that area. Yeah, so I will give back to Emmanuel.
So thank you very much for the insight. Very great job done.
Exactly.
Yes. What we will do first is, so we'll open the floor for discussion. Before that, one or two things that I've realized in course of the presentation. The issue of the European Union forcing Ghana to accept the European chicken into the market. We all know, we talked today about China, especially from the European perspective or European Union. They always, in many cases, they try to preach the fact that as if we do not know what the dangers are. They'll be telling us, be careful, the European Union will, the Chinese will take your market, the Chinese are a danger to you, and so on and so forth. Mostly, some of the discussion on the fear is about the knowledge that they've created an avenue where everybody can exploit Africa. I mean, you just talked about Brazil. So Brazil just came in, and also they tried to use the same avenue that European Union created. The same applies to China. And when it comes to Ghana, the old behavior of a good boy vis-a-vis the powerful. I mean, whenever a country is being held in the European, by the Europeans, in many cases, you see that you find out that, in fact, all the conditions are being accepted. In that case, you do not have a problem. The moment you start, resisting some of the policies, you have a problem. It applies to many countries in Africa. We all know that. What I will do is I'll open the floor, and then any questions?
All right. Yeah, hello.
Yeah, Mr. Sapo, please.
Yeah. Very wonderful presentation, Alice. Thank you. I just want to reiterate for the fact that, yes.
Where are you talking from?
I'm talking from Ghana, Sunyani, to be precise.
Okay.
And I'm Charles Sapon, yeah, a teacher of, I teach economics, yeah. I just wanted to find out if anything can be done. I just want to find out what is the way forward, because just like what she said, that does she not believe that our industrial sector has also contributed immensely towards the failure of our people on agriculture? Because if we talk of, we have industry and agriculture moving vis-a-vis together, just like what she said, that we import these poultry products. About 5% of our poultry products are imported from Europe. So would there be anything that we can do to at least develop our industrial sector so that we can reproduce them here and feed our market and even export some? Can there be that avenue that we can do? Because if we develop our industrial sector well, just as she said that there have been subsidies for the people in Europe. We don't have such things here. We only subsidize fertilizer and some few things. Can the government be held responsible or anything of that sort, especially I'm talking in terms of Ghana, so that they can also help our poultry people to even produce to feed the masses in Ghana and even export some? That's my question.
Alice, before you come in, I think Sapon, you have missed one point probably. Alisa is talking about the fact that, you are talking about the industrial sector.
Yeah.
Before an industry can develop, it has to start from somewhere.
Somewhere, yeah.
The developmental process in Europe was not different.
Yeah.
You have to start from one before systematically you move on.
Definitely.
So what Alisa is saying, that process has been, stopped or has been intervened in the 1990s.
Yeah.
So the industrial sector not functioning is not a factor on its own. It has a relationship with the poultry being imported into the country.
Yeah.
So that's why that process, the industrial development aspect is broken. I know that you are probably old enough to hear about the Dako farms.
Dako farms, yes.
1980s and 1990s.
Yeah, yeah.
If, for example, that particular process with Dako farms were to allow to move on, probably we would have been feeding Europe today, not European feeding us, because you have cheap labor, so on and so forth.
Yeah.
Lisa, am I right in that case? Please, can you react?
Yeah. I can hear you very well.
Mr. Sapon, allow Alisa to react to your...
Okay.
Yeah, I think you are both right that we need to do something about that. And I think here in the European Union, the thing that Wolfgang Lieberknecht is doing with his workshops, the thing what I am doing with my research, the thing of getting that as a political topic to show our voters that currently our politicians are doing something really bad to African countries with what we are doing here, and that it is not fair. This is the way what we can do, and we hope that due to our democratic system, we can somehow change that decisions to better ones. So I hope that in the future we will just pay less subsidies, and that we will also have a free trade, or that the European Union will allow. My wish would be that the European Union has free access also for middle-low income countries, because I think that there is no reason why we should treat Ghana different from Liberia, because Ghana has still also a lot of problems, and it could help them so much to give them a free access to the European Union's market and to give them the freedom to do the duties which they want to do. And from the African side, I would wish, I don't know whether you know Kwame Nkrumah. I mean, you know him because he was the first president from Ghana, but he said that we should have something like an Pan-Africanism. That means that we have West Africa, for example, they're coming together and they say to the European Union, we are not interested in your European Partnership Agreement if you don't give us the free possibility to have the duties which we want to have. And I think that if you have that kind of cooperation, you don't have anymore the European Union negotiating with Ghana, but you have the European Union negotiating with all West African countries, and then it's possible maybe to have a free trade that is fair. Because, for example, Nigeria, as I said, they have the freedom because they have oil, because they have power, because they have population. They didn't sign the European Partnership Agreement, but Ghana is unfortunately politically not strong enough to do the same. And that's the reason we need to have a common politics in that area. And also, I would wish that African politicians, that they just maybe show what is done to them and that they don't accept those conditions. But of course, they will also have negative impact from that. But yeah, in the end, they always have to decide whether they want to do politics for their population or whether they want to do what the Western countries want them to do.
Thank you very much, Alice. Especially the question of Nigeria, you brought Nigeria in. And you also mentioned Kwame Nkrumah. I mean, the fact is that if Africans or African countries come together as a bloc, some of these things, unless African countries come together as a bloc, it will be very, very difficult, especially with the smaller countries. And Nigeria is in a good position. We see what Nigeria can do in terms of dealing with the powerful countries. And it's a fact. And also, you mentioned one thing, which I also did a research some time ago, about 2014-15, on the APAS. What I found out was that, in fact, the countries that are allowed to import into the European Union, they are toothless countries. In other words, they do not have power to be able to industrial power to be able to import or export to the European Union. So when they look at countries that have a bit of ability to be able to compete, then they give them some conditionalities not to export to the European Union. Ghana belongs to those countries, as we said. So when they look at countries such as maybe Burkina Faso, Mali, and so on, they open the door. You can import. It's a toothless lion. You cannot bite, so no problem. So that is a strategy. It's unfortunate. So,
hello, Emmanuel.
Yes, please come in.
Yes, I want to thank Alice so much for the presentation, and I really see that she has dealt with the topic very well from the 90s when the European Union brought this up about the exportation of poultry to Ghana. It has been so up to date, and it is really pathetic farms have collapsed, and really the business is not flourishing. Of course, you mentioned I think Dako farms, and Dako farms in the year 2002, a government official's comments caused the abrogation of a deal between Dako farms and then Tyson Foods of Arkansas in the US, where they were striking a deal for production of poultry in Ghana in abundance, even to export. In fact, the official reportedly said that it was going to be inimical to local the production of poultry in local by local farmers, which was of course not the case, because that would have been encouraged. So I think this is important, because we have to sort of cause the politicians to know that no, you see, until awareness is created, and then the citizenry actually get to know the facts, because Alice mentioned that many of us even are not aware of what is happening. People are, and they prefer to get cheap poultry, dead meat, I would say, in quotation marks, from elsewhere, and they'll go to the cold stores and buy that, which is not right. You see, even it affects the industry in another way. For instance, in 2018, Ghana imported 511,960 broiler day-old chicks, all right? And then 7,130,999 layer day-old chicks again. You see, and that also kills the industry. Of course, if these are all produced in Ghana, and then the farmers buy, that is going to actually boost even the production of poultry. And so that has been a very big issue in Ghana. Now, when COVID came, it really affected the industry, because they couldn't export. And again, it was Dako Farms who came up, and then was now the leading producer of these day-old chicks, you see, which should have started long time ago. And that's a real serious case. So I think this discussion is very important, and that perhaps we need to push it forward to see how, not only in Ghana, but in the rest of Africa, as she mentioned. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Joseph. Dominic, Joseph, okay.
Yeah.
After that, Dominic.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Alice, for your presentation. And it was really very interesting. But I would like to say that Alice focused only on one sector. This is, of course, scientifically okay. But I think if we really broaden our view a little bit, we see that there are so many efforts, wanted or not wanted, from the European countries, which makes the living conditions of many people in Africa miserable. I am now thinking about, I mentioned already, land grabbing, where we, our policies, kick out many millions of small farmers, and they have to go to the cities and try to find any kind of jobs, while we make in the rest of the place industrial agriculture. To export flowers or whatever to the European markets. And if you think about soybeans, you know, for feeding our animals, which we don't need, and then we have the meat to be exported. And this meat is processed here in Germany, as we saw a few months ago, under miserable conditions. So why we are doing that? It doesn't make sense. Yeah. So I think the solution is that we must make clear to the European citizens, this policy might be beneficial for us temporarily, in a short term, but in the long term, we will suffer from the suffering in Africa. Our children and grandchildren, the coming generations, will suffer if we cannot succeed in making the situation in Africa better. We have to always look for win-win situations. But at the moment, the European countries, compared to countries like Ghana and so on, are so strong, they can make deals with win-lose. Europe wins, the others lose. But this will lead to lose-lose at the end. Yeah, because this winning is only temporary. It is not sustainable. And there are so many things. For example, you know maybe about the new law in Germany, Fachkräfte-Migrationsgesetz. That means the law for the migration of qualified people from outside Europe. That means the African people who have qualifications, for example, in the field of IT or any fields we need, yeah, even in the future medicine, if we not overcome this pandemic easily, we will bring medical staff from other countries to help us. Yeah? So on one hand, we know that the industrialization needs qualified people. On the other hand, we are planning to bring over your qualified people to Europe because we need them at the moment. So that means if we look only focus on our own benefit, regardless what the impacts are in the partner country, we will be also losers at the end. And this we have to make clear, really, that it is not in our interest to have this high level of standard on the expense of others.
So Yusuf, thank you very much. Dominic, before you come in, I would like Emana to present the Nigerian perspective. As I introduced her earlier, Emana has done a PhD in climate change policy. And then she's now, Emana, she's now going to give us about 5 to 6 minutes, view, depending on how you want it, on the perspective of Nigeria. Please.
Emmanuel. Thank you very much, Emmanuel, for introducing me, and thank you everybody for sparing time to join this important discussion. Let me make some very quick corrections. First of all, I am into climate science, change, adaptation, and policy, but I have spent the last 15 years of my life working in the development sector, international cooperation, before moving to Germany for an international climate change fellowship, and then moving on to doing my PhD. So it's not just about highlighting our disciplinary interest. It's about it is for me a discussion that speaks to my values. It is for me a discussion that speaks to my philosophy and that speaks to the development ideologies that shapes me. So I will not be speaking restrictively on Nigeria, but rather I will be speaking broadly on what trade and development does in terms of human rights and in terms of rights to dignity. So we are using 2 continents today. We are looking at the European continent, and we are also looking at the African continent in terms of the disparity and in terms of the imbalances between these 2 continents on the scale of trade. So I listened to the keynote speaker's presentation. She has done a very good job. So I will be giving my input from the perspective of fair trade and small scale farmers. So, and I would like to do this by raising our memories and refreshing our memories about why we are here today. So why we are here today, it's about discussing about the imbalances and the unfairness in which the 2 countries, the European continent and the African continent about the unfairness between relationships, development relationships between Europe and Africa. So why did fair trade occur in the first place? Why did we have the issue? Why did we have to get into the discourse of fair trade? We went into the discourse of fair trade like the first presenter had already given, about 2-3 decades ago, because the countries of the global north systematically never wanted the countries of the global south to be at a competitive par with them. And so fair trade came in as an alternative to a need for a balance. It came in as an alternative to a need for justice. And this because there was a very wide injustice gap between, like she mentioned in her paper, between trade policies in the global north and trade policies in the recipient global south countries. And so global movements like fair trade came onto the scene to say we could have an alternative measure, and that alternative measure was to virtually connect producers in the global south to the consumers in the global north. And by doing so, by moving the discussion by moving the discussion and moving the point of solution, because for every challenge there has to be a solution. And so therefore, by moving the solution and moving the approach to the solution from a policy-oriented approach to a behavioral approach was in itself a defeat of the entire process. Because when fair trade came into the scene and said, now we are going to give certifications to products that are produced by local farmers in the global south, so that the consumers in the global north will pay a premium on every product that is sustainably produced by a local farmer in Africa, in Nigeria, in Ghana, in Cote d'Ivoire, in Mali, in Burkina Faso, in Niger. The payment of that premium was to say, we are compensating you for having produced sustainably well, and we are also contributing to your livelihood. And so the issue of livelihood is actually the issue of livelihood and the issue of economic empowerment is the question that has been trying to be answered. So by saying that by shelving the European Union and the United States of America from their responsibility of accepting their own, by accepting to de-incentivize or to reduce subsidies to their farmers and pushing their subsidized foods and products into Africa, fair trade came up with the solution of consumerism, of saying consumers from the EU would have to pay a premium on the goods that are produced from Africa. For me, as a development practitioner, that is not like the last speaker said, that isn't a win-win situation. That was only an approach to take the European Union from shelving them from their responsibility. So the question is, how much of fair trade products do we have on the shelves in the European Union supermarket? There are actually about 6 important fair trade products that are being patronized in the EU and in America: cocoa, cotton, banana, coffee, tea, and flowers. And these few products are just a very minimal percentage compared to the whole lot of crops, food crops, which we produce in Africa. So that means for farmers who are not producing cocoa, for farmers who are not producing coffee, for farmers who are not producing cotton, for farmers who are not producing banana, for farmers who are not producing flowers, they are actually demarginalized or marginalized from this global network of trade. That's the first thing. So we actually disempowered farmers who are not opportune to farm these these fair trade products. So we take them out entirely from the global trade system. That's the first thing. The second thing, which this fair trade, which this imbalance in trade, like I said before, the Fair Trade International came into existence because as a response to the imbalances in trade between the European Union and the African continent. Now, having by introducing fair trade, we are saying that we are subjecting the producers in poor African countries to the consumerism style of the European consumer, and we are subjecting them to the test, to the preferences. So if a European consumer says, I am not willing to pay €1 more for a fair trade banana, it means the livelihood of the African producer linked to that fair trade banana in Aldi, in Breve, in Edeka is actually disconnected because the preference of someone, because of the consumerism style of someone, because of the consumer decision of somebody hasn't been in the favor of €1 more on a fair trade banana. It means the livelihood linked to that fair trade banana on the shelves of the European supermarket is actually in danger. And so this brings us back to the issue, not just about the imbalances in trade, but about the exigencies of time which we live. We live today in the exigencies of time that is characterized by a constrained climate. So if we are talking about gas, if we are talking about the WTO, which has been the WTO rounds, which has been going on as long as 20 years. That was when climate change was not topical. That was when drought was not in the horns of Africa. That was when flood was not taking over Asia. That was when unpredictability in seasonal rainfall was not a problem in Nigeria. So fast forward to 20 years after the WTO, 30 years after the GPA, the GATT, 30 years after the WTO round, we are now living in a society where climate has constrained even more than it was 30, 20 years ago, how farmers produce. So we are having an interaction. We are having an interaction of not just continental leadership, or not just European leaders, and not just the global players refusing to confront the issue as the way. We are dealing with a problem that has been intertwined by constrained climate. That's one. And three, we talk about social rights, we talk about economic rights, we talk about being on the same level, we talk about being at the par level between, we signed the trade and the African and European trade partnership deals. For me, these trade deals, and if you look at it very well, the European Union has systematically refused to acknowledge trade policy, to being part of the fair trade movement globally, because in 2009 it issued a communication saying we would only support fair trade in terms of dedicated project program funding. That means the European Union had lifted or the European Union perceives this issue of equal footing on trade as just a very mere development intervention program that the European Union would need to give some little €1 million as intervention program grants, but not approach the issue as a development problem. For us in Africa, equal trade is a developmental problem because you can't open your market access. You can't propose a policy that gives you a much more larger market access, an open market access to your producers, but limits what our producers in Africa brings to Europe, and also subject our products in Africa to the consumerism styles of Europe. In Nigeria, when we go to buy chicken, no one says we wouldn't buy a chicken, we wouldn't buy poultry imported from Europe. People just buy it because people want to eat chicken. But in Europe, people go to the supermarket and say, I am more interested in buying products that are being produced in Austria or produced in France. So that means that even on the shelves of the European supermarket, the European consumer have a choice to buy or not to buy. But in our continent, we don't have that choice. So therefore, we are being entangled not just in an unequal trade balances, but we are also entangled, particularly at this point in time, where climate change is affecting. So therefore, it is not just about trade. It's not just about trade. It's about development. It is about sustainable development. It's about empowerment. It's about rights, and it's about a win-win situation. So for me, the Black and White platform, this conversation should go on, not just about putting it out as a dialogue, as a conversation, but also as policy advocacy and dialogue, that the European Union should begin to consider that subjecting our goods from Africa to the consumerism decisions of the European consumer should not continue. Rather, we should have an equal open access market that allows us to bring in our goods from Africa, and also gives us the autonomy of the kinds of goods which we should produce. So this is my intervention. Thank you very much.
Mana, thank you very much for your insight. Your main point that there's a need for policy advocacy. We shouldn't remain on only the theoretical aspect of it. First of all, I would like to open the floor again. Yeah, Yusuf. No, please, Dominic. Yeah, Dominic, are you there?
Yes, good evening, sir.
Okay, please.
Good evening.
Please go on.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening.
Good evening, Mr. Ima.
Good evening.
Good evening. How are you guys doing?
We are fine. Please go on.
Thank you. Thank you. This is Bonzi.
Yeah, Bonzi, you're welcome.
Thank you very much. I'm very grateful to the lady who came to do the research in Africa. And then I'm very grateful to the one who just left. She spoke a lot about what is happening. But I won't say much, but what I realized from the whole show is that, let us underline the word European Union, United States of America. In fact, with that, we can analyze it in a situation that they are able to monopolize the markets of Africa, because Africa is not as they are. Africa is an individual country, not the OAU. So automatically they can manipulate the markets, because previously, when the European Union was not formed, there cannot be a consensus in Europe among them. But now they are union, there can be a consensus that let us do this. They can do it. But with Africa, Nigeria is different. Ghana is different. So if Nigeria won't do, Ghana will do. If a policy is from Europe and it is brought to Africa, if Nigeria realize that this policy can help me, he will accept it. If Ghana realizes it will not help him, he won't accept that. So in this case, it depends on the union, the unity among them. That is all that I can come up with.
Bonzi, thank you very much.
It is only the unity.
Okay, please.
That can capture a whole thing.
Is that it, please? Thank you.
Thank you.
So you are trying. I mean, you made this same point last time. The issue of why European Union, individual countries so powerful like Germany, but they decide to form a union. You know, I mean, to be able to deal with the rest of the world. It was not. It is not a coincidence. The European Union decided to form or to come together as a bloc, looking especially from the beginning. I mean, in the 1990s, when they saw that the possibility of China, I mean, becoming a superpower to deal with countries, I mean, such as China, there's a need for a bloc, and they did it. You see, so, I mean, there's a need for Africans, especially, to come together and say that enough is enough, to be able to form, to go back to the Nkrumah's dream. Without that, it will be difficult. I mean, divide and rule strategy that has been used for Africa has been working till today. For example, countries that have relative capacity to be able to bring other countries together, Nigeria, South Africa, and so on. I see it in a way that they can do better in terms of bringing other countries and then working together to be able to form a bloc. Mr. Joseph, you wanted to say something, please.
Yes, thank you very much. I want just to say a few sentences about the fair trade, because Amina talked about it, and I really see, I appreciate very much the efforts of those people in Europe and also in Africa who are involved in this fair trade. But if we look at the volume of the so-called fair trade, after 14 years in Germany, it is less than 1% of the international trade. So, and secondly, it is a shame to have fair trade because it shows clearly that the other 99% is not fair.
Absolutely.
Yeah, if the trade was fair, we wouldn't need to have something special to call it fair trade.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, and the danger is, it is a shame, and it is also dangerous because if I discuss with my friends, they tell me, what are you bothered about Africa and these misrelationships in trade between Europe and Africa? We have fair trade. Today, I bought something with the side of fair trade. So this person feels happy because she or he thinks that he contributed to balancing Africa and Europe because he bought something for €2, but it was fair trade. Yeah, so that means this fair trade will make us think that everything is fine. If you want to be fair, you can buy fair trade products. If not, you buy the other products. And this is the danger, because this is like some medicine which treats your headache, but it does not cure you. Yeah. So therefore, people think since we have fair trade, everything is fine. Yeah. Especially those who don't work in this field and don't know the details. So they feel very well and they can look at themselves in the mirror in the evening because they bought something fair trade. Yeah. So therefore, we must be careful. We must always emphasize it is only 1%. Yeah. And, absolutely. And look, for those who understand German, I would recommend really a very good documentation from Arte, the TV station Arte, which is called Konzerne als Retter, ? Konzerne als Retter. Are these Konzerne, what is this, big, large multinational companies, are they the saver of the people, or they are the really destroyer of the relationships between the rich and poor people, and producing more poverty than producing more wealth? Thank you.
Robert, thank you very much, Yusuf. Robert?
Yes, please, good evening, and I want to thank you for the opportunity. First of all, I think we've had insightful presentation from our speakers, and my little contribution is that I think that if a whole union is trying to negotiate with like a country, as in the there's no way like the country can really do away with the demands of like a whole union. So just imagine taking into consideration, let's say
Hello?
Germany is negotiating.
You are muted.
Hello?
You are muted, Robert. You are muted. Your microphone is off.
Hello?
Hello.
Okay. Please go on. Hello?
Hello.
Hello?
Yeah, please, can you hear me?
Your microphone. Yeah, now. Please go on.
Okay, yeah. So I'm saying that in this instance, I think that it would be best if African countries rather come together to do the negotiations. Like if maybe the negotiation is going to be between the African Union and the European Union, I think that its outcome is surely going to be different from how it will happen when a country is negotiating with the whole union.
Thank you very much, Robert. I think this point is well known today. The problem has to do with the individual countries wanting its own interest. And that comes back to the idea of dividing Africa into small pieces to be able to have access to African resources. We all know that how many centuries it took Europe to be able to come together as a bloc. Even Europeans that have, long history of, in other words, they had a long history of, fighting among themselves. But at the end, they decide to come together. So Africa, the way we have it now, we need a strong political will. If not, it will be very difficult. Any other contribution? Okay, Wolfgang.
Yeah, we really have to realize the idea of organizing the United Nations and human rights is till now on the paper. And this is what they tell them, and they fool them. They fool us as common people in Europe that human rights is their first aim, and they fool a lot of people in Africa who believe, aha, the West is positive. Our leaders are only bad. You know, I've spoken with many Africans, they're saying our leaders are corrupt, but the West will help, and therefore democratization. It's very important that what we heard today, that people understand when the prices on the markets are falling, that it is not by nature or by God. There are interests, special interests behind it. So it is very important, I think, that you make education work and explain them how the markets are organized in the way that many farmers have no chance anymore to sell their products. I don't think really till now that Europe only take their own interests and don't want that any other part comes up has not changed after 1945. You know, the politicians, they are not voted in if in Africa a person has hunger or not. They are voted in how the people live here. If they can make, as farmers, their money, if they can get cheap food. This is a point why you elect you. And most people, they even believe, they don't know what we have heard today. Very few only know about how they play. Many Europeans believe we help Africa, but they are not able to make something out of it. And this destructive policy, they are not aware. So those of us who really are standing for the ideals of the Human Rights Declaration, do to others what you want that they do to you. We have to make a lot of education work in Europe and in Africa. You know, your elites are benefiting from these relationships. They have a high lifestyle even in Africa. They are not in the same situation as these poultry farmers. And in Europe, and what we have to see also, they bring now soldiers to West Africa because chaos is spreading. But the main background of instability are the bad living conditions, the youth who can't work, the farmers who have no future. And no wonder these people get emotional. It's everywhere in the world. If you don't have a perspective, you even follow extremists. But here they don't tell us that is because we destroy their economy with our policies. They tell us it's the Quran. Yeah, something are the Muslims. And they don't want that we understand that this destructive policy destroys these countries, organized chaos in these countries. And at the end, many people are suffering, especially in West Africa. You know, hundreds of thousands can't live at home anymore. And in the neighbor countries, and even in Ghana now, the tension is rising. So in the interest of peace, we have to really do something for fair relationships. But therefore, first we have to give the people knowledge why the things are failing. And therefore, what Alice has done and is doing is very important. That she goes in the details, explain us exactly how the things are happening. And I think we will have this PowerPoint presentation. We should use it. You should spread it maybe in National Commission of Civic Education in your clubs where you have access, in the schools, and we should do the same. But I think the key factor that we change things are that Africans and Europeans come in contact personally. And if they understand the situation of the other one, then those people who are standing for human rights, they can understand it themselves, how the problems are, and try to give the knowledge to others. And then are touched by the heart because they feel how many people are suffering because of these policies. And then maybe we have a chance. And for this, we can all contribute, that many people come together, those who are for human rights from Africa and here, and then maybe we have a chance.
Thank you very much, Wolfgang.
Yeah.
Eunice.
Okay.
Hello. Yeah. I just wanted to add something very small. Yet with this poultry imports, there is one aspect I would like to draw attention also. The poultry imports does not only destroy the markets in Ghana, but in recent research shows that people, even it comes with health risk. People are having kidney problems. They are having really health risks because of eating this poultry, imported poultry. So it is not only the poultry, imported poultry destroying the farms, but it is also having health impact on the people who are eating it. And this is an aspect we should also think about. If it will only be the poultry that it is destroying the market is one different thing, but it's also taking lives. People are getting serious diseases, sicknesses from eating this poultry that are imported into the country. So that is just, I wanted to draw attention also to that.
Eunice, thank you very much. That is true. Especially, you just think about it. A poultry parts being imported to Ghana, sometimes it can take about 3-4 months, even a year before somebody consumes it.
That's what I call dead meat.
It's amazing. One another aspect of it is
Emmanuel.
Yeah.
I'm sorry for interrupting you, but I just wanted to let you know that there's a Mr. Schneider who would love to say something to this thing.
Sorry.
And he wrote it in the chat. I just wanted to give him the floor.
Schneider. Okay.
It's okay.
Let me just finish my sentence.
Of course, yes.
The other aspect of the poultry problematic is that the farmers, those who were very much engaged, and all of a sudden they lose their job. Even if you give them another opportunity, they are very skeptical. They will tell you, it is happening in Ghana today. They said, what about tomorrow again? The European policy makes it possible that we lose our job again. What will we do? So even if they have the opportunity, not only in poultry aspect, but also other aspects. So it's very distracting. Okay, Mr. Schneider, please come in. I'm sorry.
Yeah, thank you for giving me the floor. I couldn't really understand how you distribute the floor. So I want to react also for the PowerPoint from Alicia. I was astonished because there are only important countries, but not countries who don't import poultry. So we worked about nearly 5 years in Mali, for example, and it's formally forbidden to import poultry, frozen meat. So when they do it, you saw my daughter. She worked in the zoological garden. They directly confiscated it and gave it for free to the zoological garden. So there was also reaction from the border officers. I was also surprised that in the PowerPoint, European Union and US and WTO was mentioned, but not China and India relationships. As we know, China imports lots of things into Africa, and it's perhaps even more important for some countries than European Union. I will say European Union will lose power due to Chinese imports. And then what is the role of African border customs in your opinion? You should not forget that there are lots of corruption problems also with border customs. So this leads me to the question, in the PowerPoint we saw that Benin imported lots of poultry, and due to Alisa's explications, it might be exported from Benin to Nigeria. Is this legal, or is this a normal trade? So when we worked in Mali, I worked in rice value chain, and we understood very well that for the government, it is always very necessary to have a balance between cheap food for poor people and reasonable price for farmers. Of course, if you import more cheap food from European Union or China or wherever, you have a problem with the price and the local farmers. If you stop importing cheap food, well, your farmers, local farmers will be fine, but you will have a big problem with poor people because they will not, they can't buy anymore certain types of food. Who said, I can't remember, I think it was Dominique, that unity is very important. Well, Ghana, Nigeria, they are not the only country fighting for their interest. There is the economic community of West African states. There are 15 countries inside, so I want to know what's their role. There's not only Ghana or not only Mali or Benin. And well, my last point, I'm always very sorry that Francophone Africa is neglected. As you can hear, my English is not so good because I worked only in Francophone countries. And I always regret that there are so less connections, especially from researchers who only speak English or French, but there are too less connections to have really important studies on different subjects. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Schneider. We have 10 minutes to close. Before Alisa, those are some of the issues. You can react to it. But before you go on, there's one point that Mr. Schneider raised. This is a common argument that we all hear. If, for example, we stop the importation, the poor population might not get food in lower prices. That's a common argument. I mean, it is clear. If you cut the system in a way that the local farmers cannot produce more, but it is imported from outside, the cheaper ones, then the local farmers cannot they do not have the capacity to produce food in a cheaper prices for their own population. So the argument goes to the other side by arguing that, okay, if we don't import the food, the lower population or those who do not have the money to buy cheaper food or expensive food will go hungry. So it's like a chicken and egg problem that you create, which is created deliberately. At the end, you argue with that particular aspect. I mean, we all know that argument. What do you say on that, Anissa?
Yeah, thank you for all the very interesting questions and insights. So about the first questions, for example, about Nigeria and the export. So as I said, Nigeria is forbidding to export poultry to Nigeria, but it is coming in via the neighboring countries. And the neighboring countries, they have also something like not official, but everyone knows the way and where they can bring it over to Nigeria. So it is illegal, but the Nigerians say, I also talk with people who know people who are selling it from neighboring countries, and they say, okay, I can go to police and tell, okay, it is this and this person, but that person has a family and he has children. And if I will go to police and say, okay, he's bringing in poultry, I will also kill his family, or I will take away their income. So that is why, and I know, I mean, you know how Nigerians live. They have strong communities, and it is very important for them to have a good relationship with neighbors and with friends. So like the people know that it is not good what the neighbor is doing with bringing in the poultry, but they wouldn't go to police to report that because they don't want to struggle, or they don't want to put pressure or struggle to his family and to that person. So unfortunately there is that problem. And then the rule of other countries in West Africa. So as far as I know, as I said, Nigeria is the only country that is resisting to sign the European Trade Partnership Agreement. The other countries, all in all, they're just functioning how the European Union wants them to function. So they are all signing one after another, and like they are on different stages on applying the European Partnership Agreement, but all of them are doing it. So there is unfortunately no difference. And even though a country like Liberia doesn't need to sign that because they are low-income countries, so they can have free access without signing it. They are signing it because the European Union is telling them, okay, this brings so much good. This brings so much good possibilities for you, and like they don't see that it's against their interests. Unfortunately, they are doing it because they don't have the experts who tell the politicians, don't do it, you don't need to do it. You can have free access. We are not Ghana. Ghana has to do it to have free access, but we don't. But they are still doing it, and all countries are doing it. And then in the end, about the countries with French languages, you are right. Like I speak French, but it's not as fluent as that I can have an interview with someone, and I feel that I need to understand my person next to me, especially when I'm in Ghana, because I had the experience that sometimes when I had translators, they didn't translate everything correctly, but they also put in their own opinion. So I felt that maybe there is another culture of translation, and that it's very important that it is myself who is understanding that person. So that is why I was focusing on English-speaking countries. But you are right, of course. I wish that there are other researchers that are also focusing on Côte d'Ivoire, which could be very interesting, or Senegal and other countries.
Thank you very much, Alisa. You just mentioned something that I just want to do some one or two corrections in terms of Liberia. That's probably they do not have experts that understand the complexity of what they are signing. I mean, that is not a real problem. The real problem lies somewhere. How they are, I mean, the conditionality from outside, that if you do not sign, you will not get the development aid and so on. If you understand how the so-called Asian tigers developed, Singapore, Malaysia, and so on in the past, I mean, when they saw that they do not have the capacity, they went in for, I mean, independent consultants that they can pay them that have the interest of their country in their hearts. So Liberia can do the same. The fact is that it has not, it's not a problem of necessarily lack of expertise. I have done a research in the area. I know what is going on. And then it's a question of lack of the power imbalance.
And the political
pressure, the political pressure. Joseph, that is right. So that's the main problem. And also the political will from the politician because of that, I mean, pressure from outside, from the European Union. It's not necessarily the expertise that is lacking. We'll close now. We have 4 minutes. Wolfgang,
okay.
Yeah, one point I want to say this, we have to
All
see the two connected attacks on the economy of Ghana. The one are the destructive results of the agriculture, but if people then can't live from their poultry anymore and go to the towns with the EPAs, they also undermine the development of the industry. Yeah, when Europe, the productivity of agriculture developed, people could go to the towns and industry developed. But even this, they don't allow. And one point I want really that I can tell you, we from the North, we can support you, but our societies are corrupted. We all benefit from the exploitation, more or less, with the cheap cacao, with the cheap coffee, everything. We are, for me, I think we are somehow corrupted. You are in the biggest problem of existence, even of your national security, because if many people have no chance, even you risk your social security here. So first of all, you have to understand, you as people from the South, you have really to unite and you have to be active. Otherwise you will be the victims. I tell you, we are here in minority who stand for human rights, really, not only on the paper, but who even say, even if we have disadvantage, we support a fair policy. We are in minority. Many of Europeans don't know, but I think even if they know, it is not sure that we get a majority for fair trade, because you have to pay more for many things and you lose maybe your job. Or as a farmer, you have more difficulties. Therefore, I really think you have to see how you educate and unite. We try our best to help you, but you are the main force in the change.
Thank you very much, Wolfgang. Alice, can you give us just 1 minute or two?
Okay. Hello?
Hello, Mr. Sapon. The time.
Hello?
Is this something very quick?
Yeah.
Okay, please.
Yeah, I just want to say that I'm talking in terms of Ghana and that of Africa. For me, I'm talking in terms of Ghana because I'm in Ghana. We have ourselves to blame for the fact that we have been made to believe that everything that comes from the Western world is the best. And therefore we think and those things, instead of us enjoying what we are producing ourselves, we tend to depend much, all because of the subsidy that she raised, Alice raised. They come into our market at cheaper prices. And you know, the poverty level at our place here, it is becoming unbecoming, and therefore it becomes very difficult. Locally produced goods come with higher prices just because they are not subsidized. And therefore, there's the need for the government to step in so that the subsidy can also be given to our farmers and so that they can produce at cheaper prices so that we can enjoy the locally manufactured. Else, we will still face that problem of relying much on foreign-made goods. And we shall always give a market to their goods. And that's what I just wanted to say.
Okay, thank you very much. Alisa can come with the conclusion. What is the way forward? I mean, according to your many years of research, you propose one of the solutions as policy advocacy. Apart from policy advocacy, what again? What is the solution? What is the solution? What's the way forward?
Well, I hope we still show also the other disadvantages that are coming in due to the agricultural subsidies. I mean, it's not just having an impact on the African market, it's also distorting the German prices and the European Union prices. So we can also show that argument. And also if we say that we want to stand in for free trade, we can say, okay, this is not part of free trade. So this is also another argument. And I mean, if you show different negative or disadvantages due to the subsidies, then it's maybe possible that the European Union starts to think. I mean, in the end, unfortunately, it is just about advocacy, I think, because it's everything political. And I mean, the last thing I would say to you as Ghanaians, I hope you take your first president, Kwame Nkrumah, serious, and that Pan-Africanism will play a role for West Africa, and that if Africa unites someday, maybe it becomes as strong as the European Union. That would be the solution of everything.
Thank you very much. Imana, very short conclusion.
Yeah, yeah, thank you. My conclusion, I align with what other people have said. It's not we have a union already. We are not reinventing the wheel. There is an African Union, but I think what we lack it's the leadership of purpose, a leadership that thinks more about people-oriented leadership other than elite-oriented leadership. So that's what we need.
Okay, so. Thank you very much. I will want us to have another discussion, Alisa, maybe in a month's time or somewhere in, with time, we will let you, all of you know, maybe beginning December or end of November. So we will send a link around. Wolfgang.
Yeah, I have 2 points. First of all, Alice has said she is ready to make it also in German, that we can reach more people here, because people also have no knowledge about it. Thank you very much for it. Secondly, we want to invite you for our next webinar. On the 7th, in Germany, there has formed a civil society relatively strong, where churches inside and others, for Focus Sahel. And they are concentrating, if you go in the internet, you can go on it, Focus Sahel. They made here, there is a network of African associations of Mali and the Francophone countries and of Germans. And they try to follow and exchange ideas. And we have heard that the violence is spreading, especially Burkina Faso and Mali. And it might even spread jump over to Ghana and the other coast countries. So it is very important that from the relatively stable countries, we try to develop networking to those countries together. And I think even in these countries, the subsidies for cotton is a very big problem from Europe and US, where they destroy a lot of farmers there. Now that is in the Francophone countries. That means this subject could be one of the next that we look for an expert who explains us the cotton subsidies and how the effects in the economy are there. I don't know if you know someone which we can try, but we can all look who can do it. So I think we all have to do something. This is a very, the people are in danger in this area, and what we together as Ghanaians and here from Germany can contribute for peace for this area. Thank you.
Thank you, Wolfgang. To end, to summarize what we did today, I mean, the main point is the importance to be able to unite as African, or as the whole Africa to unite, to stand as a common front, to be able to deal with the rest of the world. One of the main points that Mr. Joseph said today, I quote him, in the long term, we will suffer from the suffering of Africa. That's what he said from the part of the European side. Not only saying, looking at the weaker side of Africa and exploiting Africa, we also have some disadvantage at the end. Thank you very much for coming. And I see you on the 7th, what? 7th November.
Again, the same time, 5 p.m. And so if you write us an email, but also, you know, we have started a community webpage, Initiative Black and White minus community, and there you can all register. And from this, we try that people come direct in contact for different subjects. So we exchange our opinions and information, and from down from the people, we try to develop unity for human rights from activists. It would be very nice if you join, and there we put also the link for the 7th, in Germany again at 7 o'clock, and in Ghana time 5 o'clock. So, and try to tell it to others that step